I ran away from home because my mom would let my adult stepbrother use me as a child. Now, after over 11 years of no contact, she wants to reconnect. Posted by Money Photograph 4176. I, 29F, have an older stepbrother, Chris, 42M, who has been a nightmare since the day my mom married his dad. Let me give you a bit of background. Our parents married when I was 4, and he was 17. Both of our parents were widowed. After their wedding, we moved to the US, since my mom had American citizenship through marriage. I was born in the US as well, but after my dad passed away when I was 1, my mom and I moved back to Colombia. My stepdad got his residency through marriage, and my stepbrother did as well because he was a minor. My stepbrother wasn't a big fan of me. My only memories of him are of constant bullying. He would be left in charge of me, since he was studying locally and lived with my parents, but his babysitting mostly involved locking me in the guest bathroom or the shed outside. He would steal my lunchbox whenever he was the one who dropped me off at school. He even began to harm my pets. I have an old cat that has been with me for almost 22 years, and he tried more than once to run her over with his car. My parents never believed any of it. He's the classic golden child. My mom absolutely wanted a son instead of a daughter, so my stepbrother took priority over me. The bullying just kept getting worse and creepier. He had a long key for the bathroom, which was designed to be opened from the outside by inserting a long stick or key through a small hole in case it got locked by accident. He would use it to walk in on me while I was showering. My clothes would sometimes disappear, and I know for a fact it was him. He also started taking pictures of me while I was sleeping. One night, I woke up to him taking care of himself next to me while I slept. I obviously yelled. My parents came over, but he wasn't the one in trouble, I was. I was punished for tempting him. I was 14 when this happened, and he was 27. No one helped me, and he got bolder, until he did something that I am still in therapy for, when I was 16. It got to the point where I called my biological half-older brother, Sam, 48M, and the son of my biological father's first wife, to see if I could live with him and his wife, Sandy, during my last 2 years of high school. When Sam found out what was going on, he confronted my mom. My mom didn't care, and just told him to take me as long as he never asked her for money. That was that, and my brother and his wife became my legal guardians, and they took me in with my cat and the old family dog, since I didn't trust leaving any living creature around Chris. My parents never checked on me. My extended family on my father's side knew what happened, and they immediately got together to ensure I could finish school well and go to college. I don't know my maternal family at all. Thanks to my paternal family, including Sam's mother and her family, I got my bachelor's and master's degrees, have no student debt, and work as a nurse practitioner. I still live with Sam, his wife, and their 2 kids, and I pay a small rent. Neither Sam nor his wife expected me to pay anything, but that's the least I can do for the 2 people who have taken care of me for 13 years. For anyone wondering why I didn't move, it's incredibly expensive where I live, and Sam insisted I stay with them until I save enough to buy my own home. Things seemed okay until my mom messaged me recently. She had not contacted me since I was 18, when she told me she no longer had any responsibility for me. In this message, she sounded overly friendly, telling me how she missed me, and asking how I was doing. I was a bit creeped out but decided to be nice, telling her about what I had done since leaving her care. She seemed very interested since, apparently, she knew I was a nurse but didn't know what kind I was. She began asking me about my salary. I didn't tell her anything specific, just that it was enough to pay the bills. My mom then began texting about Chris, and how he was barely making any money due to his student debt. Apparently, Chris never finished a degree, jumping from career to career. He is now working in my stepdad's used car business as a salesman, but most of his pay goes toward his substantial student debt accumulated over the years. I told my mom how unfortunate it was, that Chris was having a hard time, and wished him luck. That's when my mom finally got to what she wanted. She texted me, saying I needed to pay his student debt, so he could finally begin to make the money he deserves like the man of the family. I just turned off my phone. When I got home, Sam was surprised, since I was usually the last to arrive. Sandy wasn't home yet. I told Sam what happened and showed him my mom's text messages. I don't think I've ever seen Sam this angry. He told me to block my mom, stepdad, and Chris, if I hadn't done so already. After talking with Sam and Sandy, I called my boss to ask for the next 2 days off. This gave me a 4-day weekend, including the days I'm normally off shift. My boss was more than okay with this, and told me to just take it easy and let her know if she could help. This backfired because the next day, my mom and Chris decided to come to Sam's house to speak to me. I was alone since Sam and Sandy were at work and the kids were at school. I immediately called Sam and told him what was going on. He told me not to open the door and that he was on his way. My mom spent the whole time screaming that I owed them for raising me and that my sweet brother deserved the money. Chris was going around trying to find a window or door unlocked. There wasn't any, since the windows have safety bars, and the only other door is in the closed garage, and one in the yard. The yard door was locked, and just in case, I locked the one in the garage too. I won't post what he called me when he saw me through one of the windows, but he basically told me they should have thrown me away when I was a baby, since I grew up to be a beach. He slammed on one of the windows so hard that he actually cracked the glass. Eventually, he gave up and went back to the front door, clearly trying to kick it down. I didn't have anything to worry about, since the door was a security door, but I was still very scared. Between the yelling, threatening, pleading, and insults, I finally heard Sam shouting at them to get lost. I only saw things from the window. Sam pretty much dragged them both off the porch. They got to a point where I couldn't hear, but I saw my mom and Chris pale and look scared before they ran to their car and drove off well above the legal speed limit. Sam came in a bit later and immediately went into full overprotective brother mode, asking me if I was okay. He kept apologizing and hugging me. Sandy arrived almost immediately after, and she looked like she was about to commit a felony. Apparently, Sam threatened Chris with filing charges for what he did to me when I was 16. My brother's ace, my stepdad, was willing to testify against his own son. That seemed enough to get Chris off our backs, but not my mom. Since then, it's been 3 days and my mom has sent texts, called nonstop from various numbers, and rallied a group of people who are supposedly my maternal family to harass me for money. She claims that money should legally be hers, since she's my mother, and that it's my late father's missed child support. Sam is helping me find a lawyer to get a restraining order against my mom, and I plan to take my stepdad's offer to testify by pressing charges against Chris. I can't say I can forgive him for not stopping his son, but I appreciate that he's at least trying. I don't know all the details, but Chris did something to a relative of his dad's, and since then, they've had a really bad fallout. I took my boss's offer and will be on vacation for a few more days. But here it is, my vacation days are getting eaten up, and my therapist might need a therapist after this. Thankfully, my dark sense of humor and supportive paternal family are keeping me somewhat sane. Update 3 days later. I didn't think I would be making an update so soon, but my mother is unrelenting. To the people who were so kind and gave me advice earlier, thank you so much. It really helps to have people show kindness during difficult times. I followed the advice to freeze my credit, and I will be getting a new phone for personal use. I'll have to keep my old phone for work for a little while. Now, to update on the situation, we are going through with pressing charges, and might pursue a civil lawsuit for the 2 years of child support my mother owes. We're not sure yet of our chances, but my brother Sam wants to go scorched earth. As for my mother, she has started a new campaign. She's been falsely accusing me of claiming that my stepbrother SA'd me. She's been accusing me of being a temptress, who tried for years to sleep with my brother, and even got a few relatives, who I just found out are my aunts, to join in, saying they were witnesses. I've never met these women in my life. My stepfather actually commented on her post, saying my mom was lying, and accused his own son of being a predator. That's how I found out what the big fallout between them was. Apparently, my stepbrother went after one of my stepfather's nieces. I don't know the girl's age, but if I'm thinking of the right person, she's about my age, and if not, she's younger than me. A lot of my biological father's relatives have also taken to social media to call out my mother, pointing out that she always claimed to be an orphan with no family, yet now she suddenly has 3 sisters. It's a mess, and for now, I'm just watching from the sidelines and being a stay-at-home aunt. My nephews love it since we get to go out for crazy shenanigans after they finish their homework. My boss has helped me with some paperwork for a leave of absence, and I should be off for about 6 weeks. After that, I'll be mostly working from home for a few weeks. It's not the greatest update, and to be honest, things are tough. But it's nice to spend time with the kiddos, at least. Also, I forgot to mention this, but no, my mom is not likely sleeping with, or in a relationship with my stepbrother, as some people have suggested. My mom always wanted a son, and I was a disappointment to her, because I was born a girl. She treats my stepbrother like he's her real son, and I think she truly loves him as a mother. She made sure to tell me how disappointed she was when I was born. Second update 1 week later. So, this might be my last update on the mess with my mother and stepbrother, since we're finally starting the legal battles, but I finally had a good laugh. In my previous posts, I haven't mentioned much about my biological father. He passed away when I was 1 year old, so I never really knew him. I have one picture of him holding me when I was an infant. I mostly know him through stories from his family. What I do know is that he was a man of means. He had a lot of assets that he carefully divided in his will, not the kind of wealth that would mean I'd never have to work, but enough that I could live comfortably as long as I managed my finances responsibly. I was not aware that my father had made sure to leave me anything. Neither was my half-brother Sam, who is his son with his first wife. I'm the daughter of an affair partner who became his second wife. My understanding was that anything I might have inherited was wasted by my mother to buy things for her predator stepson, Chris, whom she prefers over me. He was my abuser growing up. In her words, daughters don't need inheritance, just marry a wealthy old man like I did. Well, since my mother and Chris have been harassing me lately, we drove to my dad's lawyer to get some things we need from my dad's records for the lawsuit we're planning. He's a sweet older man, kind of looks a bit like my dad, and was also my dad's best friend. When we met, he greeted me with a hug and told me how happy he was to finally meet me. His wife was there too, and she also gave me a big hug and told me we needed to have dinner at their place. Once we caught up, we discovered that my mother had been faking receipts to get money from my trust, a lot of it. Some of the fraudulent claims were even made while I was under Sam's guardianship. Despite not being the executor of my trust, she had to provide receipts for anything she claimed. She's been submitting receipts on my behalf because I'm still in medical school. I finished school in 2021. Well, her meal ticket not only got torn, but now she's in big trouble. This is fraud, and my hands are basically tied when it comes to pressing charges. She's been claiming me as a dependent on her taxes, so my dad's lawyer would refund her for her expenses. He told me there's no way we can keep this just in civil court, he had to contact the IRS and the police. It doesn't help that she's been using my social security number for things she shouldn't have. Thank you to everyone who advised me to freeze my credit, you guys definitely saved me. I probably won't be able to post for quite a while, and I'm going to be incredibly busy. I'm just mentally exhausted from everything that has happened. I wouldn't have done anything about my mom using my trust if she had left me alone. I wouldn't have even known about it, because the trust is set for me to take over with proof of marriage or graduating college. And since I didn't know about it, I never sent the required paperwork to take control. She could have milked it dry if she had just left me alone and kept sending fake information. I'm in the process of getting what's left of my trust. There's quite a bit in it, and it should be enough for me to get a house or condo if I combine it with my savings, and still have some left over to invest or use safely. I might wait a while before buying anything, though. I don't know how safe it would be, since my mom still has my social security number. Third update 1.5 weeks later. Hey Reddit, this is more of a personal rant than a full update. Things are just starting on the legal side, so there's no real update or any information I'm allowed to share. This is more about the personal side of things, since I just came home from being harassed by my mother in a bar. Last night, I decided to go out with some girlfriends for a girls' night. My half-brother and his wife have been pushing me to go out for a while. We went to a local bar. I mostly stuck to the stools by the bar since I'm a massive introvert, but I enjoy seeing my friends have fun. So I was simply drinking and talking to the bartender in passing. Well, my good mood was ruined when I noticed my mother, thankfully alone, walking up to me. The moment she saw me, she pretty much launched herself at me to hug me and began crying, saying how much she missed me and how different I looked. I was trying really hard to get away from her, but she started causing a scene. She began begging for us to reconcile, saying she was sorry I took my stepbrother's affection the wrong way, that they both love me, and that they want me to live with them. She was loud, and people were looking at me, some even looked sorry for her, and a few encouraged me to hug my mom back. It was embarrassing and just so wrong. I finally exploded, told her to leave me alone, and walked out. That was even worse because she kept following me with 2 or 3 randoms calling me a terrible daughter. She just kept swearing Chris truly cares for me and wants us to be a family again. She even said, almost verbatim, that he found me so beautiful, that he couldn't help himself when he made love to me. I was a minor when he did that to me. He was almost 30. I just started crying and screaming at her to go away and leave me alone. Thankfully, one of my more sober friends called Sam, and he came over very quickly. He scared away my mom and took me home. I'm now 100% sure I don't want to go out. For people wondering why I never called the cops, I called the cops since I was 11 to report the abuse. I reported at 16 what he did to me, and they took his side. I don't trust them. I truly believe cops don't care about SA victims. I'm just writing this to get it out of my system. My therapist is unavailable, so Reddit is the next best thing. Fourth update 2 months later. Hey, it's been a while. Sorry for the radio silence. I had some people asking for updates, but things had been pretty quiet until this weekend, so I had nothing to post. This weekend, once again, my mother decided to accost me at work. I was working from home doing clerical work for the clinic I work at. I'm a nurse practitioner but took on some clerical duties to be able to work from home when the mess with my mother and Chris began. Since then, the time I could work from home has ended, so I am back in the clinic seeing patients. For the most part, Saturday went well and quietly. Sunday, however, I noticed someone who shared my mother's first name but not her last name. My mom has a very unique name, very old sounding, and I've only seen it twice in my whole life. Of course, there's a big Latino community where I live, so I just assumed this was another person. We're from a Colombian family, though I was born in the US to an American father. Lo and behold, it was my mother using a fake last name. When I saw her, I immediately called my boss. She's aware of the situation and promptly asked my mother to leave the premises. This can be a controversial move, so to explain before any debate starts, she was there for a general checkup, not a life or not life treatment. She was not denied service for protected reasons, but because I, as a staff member, felt my safety was at risk in her presence. There are plenty of other clinics with varying prices that are open to new patients, so she can get her checkup elsewhere. This is allowed under our state's law. If she had been hyperventilating or clearly in distress, we would not have been able to ask her to leave. My mother, of course, went on a rampage, demanding to be seen by me specifically. Thankfully, my boss was not intimidated and insisted that my mother had to leave, or else the cops would be called. After a back and forth, which I watched from the security cameras, this all happened in our waiting room. My mother threw a letter at my boss and left fuming. She even pushed a lady who was walking in, though thankfully, no one was hurt. My boss brought me the letter and assured me she would make sure not to assign me any patients with my mother's first name, then went to make arrangements with our front desk. I took a break and decided to read the letter, mostly to see if it was something I could use for my restraining order. This is a translation to my best capabilities. My lovely daughter, it hurts me so much that you refuse to speak to me. I love you so much, and all I want is to recover the years we've lost. You are all I have left from your father, whom I love dearly. I know there are a lot of misunderstandings with Chris. He loves you so much, and I wish you would give him a chance to prove it to you. He always talks about how beautiful you are, and how much he wishes you two could spend more time together. He truly adores you, and I wish you would consider his feelings more. He even asked me to convince you to marry him, and I think it's a wonderful idea. Stepfather's name and I are probably divorcing, and this would be the perfect solution so Chris, you and I can stay a family. He keeps going on and on about how much he wants to raise you and his baby together. Let me know when you want to go shopping for wedding dresses. I love you, my darling, from Mom. I'm going to share a few personal notes here. I'm unable to get pregnant. After Chris's attack, I had some medical complications that have left me unable to conceive. My mother knows about it. Chris knows about it. The cops know about it. They ruled the whole thing as consensual intimacy, and because I was 16, the legal age of consent, nothing was done. I showed this to my lawyer, and he added it to the compilation of things we're using for the restraining order. Still no court date, and the cops don't consider my case risky enough to do the paperwork for a temporary order. I do have one officer who is taking this very seriously and has been amazing. It's just that the majority don't seem to care or have too much on their docket to give my case time. Edit. I'm going to update here since it's only been 3 days, and it feels unnecessary to make a new post. Chris has been arrested. Apparently, he kidnapped a 2-year-old baby girl, his cousin's daughter, no less. The baby was recovered safe and unharmed, from what I heard. I'm glad she wasn't taken for long. Who knows what he intended to do to her? If I hear more details, I'll update. I'm trying to use this to get that temporary restraining order. 5th update 1.5 months later. My mother continues to be the bane of my existence. She is now harassing me to pay Chris's bail. To begin with, I can't believe they would let him post bail at all after kidnapping a baby. The bail is set at $25,000. That seems like a lot, but honestly, I find it absolutely disturbing that's all they are charging. I've been trying to get a restraining order on both Chris and my mother. Chris? That one is more likely coming. My mother? Despite all her harassment, no one, neither the cops nor the lawyers, believes her to be a danger to me. So, I still have to deal with her trying to talk to me in the parking lot of the clinic where I work or showing up at my home, constantly banging on the door. Her sisters, who I met as an adult and didn't even know existed, have also joined in. Sam and his wife say it's okay and not to worry, but I know this is taking a toll on them. I'm also worried about their kids, they have 2 boys, being exposed to all the chaos. Despite Sam's insistence that everything is fine, I decided to temporarily move to a hotel until I could find a cheap apartment to rent. Some people suggested becoming a traveling nurse, and while I'm considering it, I don't want to be far from Sam and his family, as they are my support system. The issue is my mother somehow tracked me to the first hotel I stayed in and found out my room number. She banged on the door while I was getting ready for work. When I opened the door to tell her to go away, she slapped me and began to hit and scratch me, yelling that it was my fault her sweet boy was taken by the cops and that I should be the one paying his bail. My mom isn't that strong, but I was stunned by the sudden attack. By sheer luck, Housekeeping was doing their rounds when this happened, and they got security to restrain my mother. Security called the cops. They took her away but apparently let her go with just a warning. When I recovered enough, I ended my stay and booked into another hotel. I did go to work, mostly so I could have my injuries looked after. My boss heard about this as she was helping me through a panic attack and cleaning some scratches on my neck. After I gave her the full details, she told me she has a rental property she uses for extra income. At the moment, it's rented to some college students, but when the semester ends, she plans to stop using it as a student rental and offered it to me. It's a small house with a yard that permits pets, so I can bring my cat with me. She also wants me to start carpooling with one of my coworkers, a male nurse who looks intimidating but is the sweetest teddy bear you can imagine. I went to the cops to report my mother, but once again, despite the pictures of my injuries, this was brushed off as a domestic affair because my mother is elderly, and they don't consider her a real danger. I even got lectured about possibly needing family therapy. My lawyer just told me to take a deep breath and focus on building a paper trail. He said that at the end of all this, we'll have the last laugh, so here's hoping. As for how my mother found my room number? The girl at the front desk gave it to her after my mom made a scene, claiming I was suicidal and that she was worried I would unalive myself after my fiancé was taken by the cops on fake charges. Yeah, I think it's BS, and my lawyer is already speaking to the hotel's management about it. My dear mother has also gone back to social media, claiming I attacked her when she went to check on me after Sam kicked me out. Once again, it has turned into a fight between my dad's family and her family. I posted pictures of my injuries and wrote my account of what happened. I'm just so tired right now. This is affecting my work, and while my boss is amazing and supportive, I can't imagine this is good for me. I miss Sam and his family, I miss my own bed, and I miss my peace. I never wanted to deal with my mother or Chris after I left their roof. Edit. For those suggesting I check my car for air tags, you were right. There was an air tag hidden in the undercarriage. I have no idea how it was placed there. It was covered in a ton of tape, which made it even harder to see since it matched the color. 6th update 1 month later. Hey everyone, I'm finally happy to inform you that my mother was arrested last night for tax fraud and grand larceny against my inheritance. It's been months of harassment, abuse, and fear, but I have to admit, right now I feel amazing. I might have to testify at some point, but that's fine. I'm ready to be free of both of them. As many have suggested, someone even did a great bullet point list recently filled with good tips. I'm in the process of getting a temporary restraining order and also getting a new social security number. I'm also back at home with my half-brother and his family. Turns out one of his neighbors is selling his house, so fingers crossed I get it. I'm just so relieved. It's been half a year of pain and turmoil. I'm not lowering my guard, but at least a couple of weeks of peace will be nice. My mother did call me twice from jail. The first call went to voicemail, where she demanded I drop the charges, which I can't. That's all the IRS. The second I did answer, and she was pretty much begging me not to abandon her. It felt good to just say, bye, and end the call. Good luck to whoever her lawyer ends up being. Her flying monkeys, my aunts I just met recently, have been annoying me with messages and emails, but I can live with blocking them. They are complete strangers, so not as emotionally draining. Again, as cliché as it sounds, I cannot thank everyone enough for their advice and support. If I have any updates, I'll post them, but for now, I'm going to go back to lurking in the shadows. 7th update 3 months later. Hey everyone, it's been a few months, and I've had some people asking for updates, so I just wanted to confirm that I'm alive and healthy. Forgive me if I don't do a recap, but honestly, I've done too many already. Starting with updates, my mom has finally been arrested. It turns out she never became a citizen, just a resident, so she might be facing deportation instead of jail. Either outcome works for me. The last I heard from her was a bit before Christmas through some of her, now ex-friends, who came to ask why I had accused her of tax fraud. They believed she sent me monthly allowances because I was a failed college student. It took 10 minutes to correct them. Apparently, having your diploma on the wall clears up misunderstandings about who the real leech is. My mom's sisters have been a nightmare on social media, blaming me for everything and claiming it's my fault the family's name has been dragged through the mud. Honestly, I'm planning to change my name to remove my mother's surname. I made sure to post about that, which only made things worse. They even got a Catholic priest to call me because he was worried I wasn't honoring my mother like a good Christian should. Imagine his face when I told him I had decided to convert to Buddhism, a complete lie. I'm happily agnostic. Nothing against him, I'm sure my aunts fed him some BS story. I also decided to visit Chris in jail. This was more for my satisfaction than anything else, a final FU, if you want to see it that way. He never managed to post bail, so he's sitting in jail until his trial, sometime in January, if I remember correctly. Gotta love court backlogs. When he saw me, he called me mi vida and tried to act lovey-dovey. I was a complete beach about it and brought my boyfriend with me. Remember my co-worker, the big and scary teddy bear? Well, things happened, and we're together now. I told Chris this would be the last time we'd speak. I loudly called him out for being a bastard and a PDF file. I told him he was a monster for kidnapping a baby girl and for whatever sick fantasies he had for her. I also found out the cousin he abused was younger than me, just 9 years old. I called him out for being a mid-30s predator assaulting a little girl. He started crying, saying he was sick and that my love could cure him. I told him I already had someone I loved and that this was the last time I'd ever exchange words with him. I just wanted him to see me in a good relationship and with my life relatively put together, despite the years of abuse he inflicted on me. I also promised to ensure the cousin he abused has a good life. I left after that, and I'm pretty sure the other inmates in the room heard everything. I overheard a guard swearing and calling for backup to escort Chris. He gave me a tired look as I walked by, so I did feel a little bad for giving him extra work. As promised, I've been in contact with Chris's cousin. She's about the same age I was when Chris committed his worst assault on me. Thankfully, in her case, it didn't go as far. Her mom has been very kind and supportive of us talking. I also told them that if they ever need support, emotional or financial, to just reach out. I made it clear that this offer applies to the family, except for Chris and my ex-stepfather. They've been nothing but kind to me and apologetic for not noticing the abuse. I can't blame them since we rarely cross paths. Regarding the house I wanted to buy, unfortunately, I didn't get it. That's okay, though. Since I started a new relationship, I decided to pause on making too many big moves at once. It was stressing me out, and this is my first formal relationship to begin with. On a sad note, my cat of 23 years, yes, she made it that far, God bless her, passed away. She developed an aggressive form of mouth cancer that made her waste away in days. After much thought, I let her go. I couldn't watch my best friend of 2 decades suffer like that. This is another reason I'm glad I still live with my half-brother and his family. My nephews have been my greatest support during this loss. Not to jump the fence, but I got permission from my boyfriend to share this. I'm also learning to take on a more maternal role. My boyfriend is a single dad to the sweetest 4-year-old. Her mom sadly passed away when she was a baby, so I'm the first female figure in her life as a partner to her dad. We're not rushing into the mom role right away, I'm just her dad's friend for now. She's warmed up to me quickly, and I've come to love spending time with her. She even made me a drawing of my cat with little angel wings so I'd always know my cat is watching over me. I have to admit, I teared up at that. So yeah, life is somewhat back to normal. It's a mix of good news and sad news. I'm learning what it's like to be with someone who genuinely likes and respects me. All in all, I'm doing much better.